Hi, making a video about changing the front struts on a 2007 Sprinter van. Mine is a 2500. I think this goes for years 2007 through 2009. Tools we have with us are coffee, gloves, PB blaster, aka lubricant for getting bolts loose, flathead screwdriver for popping the cover off, hammer for whacking the lug nuts loose. You want to whack them gently, but giving them a little tap can definitely help loosen them. 3/4 inch tire iron. And then I broke them loose before I jacked it up in a little bit of a star pattern. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. More important for putting it back on. Broke them loose and then blocked all 3 tires with a little bit of wedged wood on every side, made sure the emergency brake was on. Have a SUV jack that has a little bit of extra reach. So that's the placement for my jack stand and the jack itself. Yeah, emergency brake on, everything's good. And then once you jack it up, definitely go back around because it's taken some weight off and shifted some things. So go back around, kick your blocks back in, make sure they're all nice and tight. Oh yeah, see that one was a little loose. And then I'm going to take the lug nuts off a little bit further before I totally take it off the ground, just so I have some traction and it doesn't spin. Cool, so that's looking good. I'm going to mention the other tools I have real quick before we go any further. Yep, so all those guys, and then a little sharp metal piece for scribing. I'll show you what that's for later. 3/16 socket. I have a deep one and a shallow one. I think you only need one, but 13/16 wrench, a 3/8 ratchet, 7mm hex or Allen crescent wrench, 1/2 inch socket, and then smaller, what is this, 10mm, and star bit, and those are for getting the that guy off so we can get the strut mount in, and then just a 1/2 to 3/8 adapter. And then we have the new strut mount kit and the shock absorber, and that's about it. Okay, I finished jacking it up, took the lug nuts out, adjusted the jack stand again so they're both matched up at equal height, and it's being a bit of a pain to get off, so I put some extra PB blaster in there, smacked it with a hammer a couple times in between here to loosen it up. We're gonna let it sit for a second and try again. Yay, she's off. All right, it took a little more PB blaster and a couple extra taps. It was definitely rusted on right around here. You can see there's a shit ton of rust. I definitely need new rotors soon, but all in budget's time. Boot is totally shot on this guy. Okay, first things first though. These are the bolts that's gonna get this loose. So, a little bit of that, a little bit of there. I'm gonna go on both sides. And then, I don't know if you can see the other one. Yep, right down there. Okay. I'll let those set. And some people mentioned taking the caliper off. I did not find that to be necessary. What I did find helpful though was moving this guy out of the way. So, yep, this is the one. So this guy comes around and just pop that out of the housing. Tucked it right behind there. We're gonna wanna remember to put that back later. And then I might need an extra hand, but we're gonna get that guy loose. Okay, I had to pry this out a teeny bit with a flathead screwdriver, but now that is loose and out of the way. Tucked it back around there, and now we should have plenty of room. Okay, now while that's sitting, the PV blaster is working. This is where our sharp little metal bit comes in. I've seen some people paint right around here too. My shit is just so rusty. Don't know if the paint would hold. But marking, let's get that to focus. Marking this is what's gonna allow you, especially the top one, the bottom one doesn't matter as much, but we're gonna do both. That's gonna let you get this whole thing back up into alignment, roughly anyway. Okay, so we can see the lines where I scribed. It is sitting a teeny bit off of the crease, not right in there because the tool wasn't the pointiest. So I'm just making a mental note of that. You can take a picture if you want. All right, and here's where our nifty little piece of wood comes in. I did have a bottle jack, but it was so small, the little top of it. This thing kept rolling off and pinching the brake line, which I did not want to happen. So we got a little piece of wood and that guy to block it, because if I remember right, it wants to kind of rotate back. So that should hold all the weight once the bolts come out. We have our 13/16 on the back side. Now we'll get our 13/16 and the breaker bar. God, I need 2 hands to do this. I'll show you once it's loose. Okay, so as much as I sometimes bounce on the tire iron to break the lug nuts, don't want to do that with the breaker bar because everything is up on jacks and stands and we really don't want to rock this heavy ass vehicle back and forth. I switched over to a smaller ratchet once I had it broken, because the breaker bar does not have a ratcheting mechanism and it would take for fucking ever. But you can see that once it's actually broken, it comes out fairly easy. And I'm gonna make sure to break the bottom before I totally take the side out. So we're gonna leave the bolt in for now and then do the bottom side. Okay, so as soon as I broke the bottom one, we can see that there's a bit of play here, and it's already starting to rest down below, so you definitely want that in place before you take the top one out. Deciding to leave that in was a good idea, so it didn't swing down and get loose as soon as I started taking the bottom one out. All right, got them both out. Put a screwdriver in there just to temporarily hold it, because this is the line that we want to be very careful of putting any tension on. Quick note, I always try to match up the nuts and the bolts together. I leave the top one on top, the bottom one on bottom, just so I can remember where they go. And now we're gonna head up inside and get that stuff loose. All right, inside of the passenger side looks like this. Just a little screwdriver turn on that to get that unit loose. That guy was tucked back up in there. You just unpinch that thing, pull that out. And then this is what we're looking at. I make a mental note of about how far this guy is sticking up, because we're going to tighten this bit up through that a little later on. Yep. So crescent wrench goes on there, and then our 7mm is going to go in there. I did use the breaker bar to break it loose at first, and note that you want this guy to be going to the right. So don't try to break it like you were everything else by going this way. Crescent wrench is braced against there. And then I switched back to the ratchet, even though it's a little tough, just because, again, my breaker bar does not have a ratcheting system on it, and this is going to take forever, so I will get back to you. All right, everything is loose. Just note that the washer, or whatever, this guy faces up like so, so be sure to place it just like that when you put the new one in. And down we go back below. So bracing this guy with my knee, take the screwdriver out, and we see that it definitely has a little more wiggle room now. Want to be careful of stretching this line too tight. Brake line up there still looks good. Oh yeah, that's not fantastic. Should definitely be harder to press down than that. Yeah. And then if it's not though, you can always press it down by the washer on the top. And then easy as that, she comes out. All right, present time. Unbox the new parts. Okay, that is our mount washer that goes on the top. This thing is gonna go there. And there's our new boot. So on the new boot, if you're using one, see those little prong guys? Those face down. And then there's a little lip right in here that you're going to pop it into. And then the whole thing, not on the old one, but on the new one, swoop, is just going to slip down right like that. All right, brand new strut. Comes with the nut that goes on the top. I'm going to leave that with those guys for now. And then, hold on, I got to go get that trash. Okay. Now, I already checked this on the other one so that I know they're the same part. But you definitely want to make sure everything looks lined up. Can even match the distances and everything. And it looks good. We got the new boot. Again, making sure everything's fitted into that little pocket. And then, just like so. Ta-da! Now, if you're not replacing the strut mounts, those guys there, this is when you would pop that guy right back up in. But we are doing that, so we got a few extra steps. Okay, back up on the inside. I already hit these bolts. Well, I already hit them with some PP Blaster, and now we're going to get them loose. Cool, not too hard. Probably didn't even need the lubricant. This is our 1/2-inch socket, by the way. If you got a long ways to spin, definitely easier to not use the ratchet. Just use the socket by hand once they're broken loose. And once this last bolt is out, it's not going to fall all the way out because there's some, I guess, housing or whatever underneath that needs to come out first. Okay, you can see she is loose now. And what's holding it in is this plastic housing. So there is, oh my God, one there, one down here, one here, one up there, and then the star bits are going to go there. So 10 millimeter for the other 4. I'm going to take all those out and then come back to you. Yay! All right, we got that thing out of there. Now you can see this guy is loose. It'll be obvious when you go to put the new one back in, but just keep the alignment. The 2 holes that are closer to each other go towards the inside. The ones further apart go towards the outside. And again, not crucial, but I try to keep in the habit of, you know, furthest right ones, upper and lower, middle ones, upper and lower, upper and lower. Just keeping track of where things go. All right, we got the new one resting in gently. I'm probably going to have to reach around a little bit and hold it while I put the first bolt or 2 in. But yeah, going to tighten that up and go from there. All right, she is back in. If at all possible, you should be able to see a little ring where the old bolts used to sit. I was tightening it and noticed it was a little offset, so I just adjusted it so they were back in line. That's going to probably help with the alignment. I don't know. Good practice, though. And don't break yourself doing it, but try to get these guys pretty tight. All right. Have yourself a little coffee. Throw that guy back up in there. And then we're on to the last tricky bit. All right, quick note about the plastic housing. Where'd they go? These guys are just plastic. So don't give it that extra like Hulk crank. Just get it nice and snug. And when you are taking it out and putting it back in, you can see the line is in the way a little bit, so just be careful of those when you're pulling it out. And then this guy I had to kind of bend down and pull away so that this would slip out. Yeah, not that complicated. But now, ta-da! We get to put this up in there. We are going to press it down. You saw earlier how the other one dropped. This one definitely does compress, but it's a lot harder. So I'm gonna need 2 hands for it. But what I'm gonna do is press it down as far as I can, and then it's gonna slowly start to rise back up. But once it's pressed down, I'm going to slip it back into this slot, bottom side first, and then let the top side, or actually I'm gonna try to nestle the top side up through there and then let the bottom kind of extend down. So I'm gonna compress the whole thing, put the top side in first, and then let the bottom settle down into this slot, and then we'll go from there. I was totally in the way. But yeah. Ta-da! Easy as that, one try. Yep, so compress it. That guy goes in first, and then this guy will slide down. And you want to try to get it aligned around that as it's sliding down. Okay, I did one thing that I didn't show because it wasn't quite where I wanted it. I grabbed the base, pushed the whole thing up, and then pulled it out because the new mounting is kind of tight. And so then it slipped into line where it's supposed to be, and it popped up a little bit further. So now if we go inside, I should be able to see the threads sticking up, and this guy is almost perfectly aligned already. Let's check. Fuck yeah! All right, that is definitely where I want it to be. So I'm gonna set that there. Again, lip facing up. Do 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 do. Okay, so the top is just locked in hand tight a little bit for now. Ta-da, look at that, close enough to get a screwdriver in. Cool. Now we will need tools and such. But from here, it's just a matter of getting the bolts back in, and we can still see the line where we scribed earlier. Doop. So once I kind of lift this whole thing up, it's gonna take a bit of power, but we're gonna lift it up and get the bottom bolt in. And then once the bottom bolt is like loosely in, it should be in line up and down. So that line should be good. And then it's just a matter of putting it in or out like that to make sure the line is scribed up. But I'll show you in a sec. All right. So I got my legs up and under it because I think that's going to be the easiest way for me to lift. Bottom bolt in hand, in place. Ta-da! Easy as that. And then the top one should pop in just as easy too. Holding the top in place, pressing it in, bam, done. Ta-da! Okay, now you can see what I was talking about. It is in line up and down, and now it's just a matter, I think it's going to be about there. But we will get the bottom one pretty tight to where it's almost snug. And then I'm just using my knee to press back and forth on this, so I have extra hands. And then I'll get it to about there, and then we'll tighten the top one, and I'll show you what it looks like. Ta-da! All right, so if I am recalling correctly, that looks pretty much perfect to where I had marked it on the old one. I used my smaller ratchet to get the bottom one tight, align the top one, Got that one nice and tight, tighten them up a little bit more with a smaller ratchet, and then I switched to the breaker bar and put quite a bit of pressure on it, not slamming it, not trying to strip the threads, not trying to break my tools, but getting it nice and tight because we don't want it wiggling at all, because that might break it out of alignment. Cool. And then from there, I just pulled this from where I had it tucked back behind earlier. And then, let's see. Slip that right back on, press it in a little bit, and that is pretty much it. I think I might need to jack it up a tiny bit, and then we're going to pop the wheel back on, move the jack stand, and set her back down. Oh, wait, before I forget. So this is definitely the time to double check everything. After we get the bottom all tight, we're gonna wanna come back here with the 7mm and the crescent. And as you can see, this is only flush, whereas before it was sticking up, I don't know, centimeter, 2 centimeters, something like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this back up, so it'll pull it up in a little further to where it was before. And then we'll throw the tire back on and get everything set.